Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes this day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
If I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Well, hello everyone. How are you doing? I am super tired today. Let me get comments up. I hit it and then it disappeared. All right, and Bunchy's ready and we're ready. And I've got a funny story to tell you before we get going, but let's hear from Bunchy first. Okay, we heard from Bunchy. And hey there, Doc Sexy. How are you doing? Okay, well we're gonna get into the ballot access news for September. I did miss some months, but we're just gonna hit the highlights here. This always gets me super jazzed up and mad, and it's like the duopoly talks a good game about not being about voter suppression, and they'll make it all about, you know, class, race, whatever, when both of their booties are keeping minor parties off the ballot. What are they scared of? But before we get started, along the bottom, as usual, is my Patreon, patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty. If you can assist, if you enjoy the type of content I do, I would truly appreciate it if you would consider becoming a patron. Now I've got to tell you a funny story about today. All right, the candidate deadline for my town council race has passed, so I'm going to do some more grifting. KarenForCastleRock.com. I really need help with my campaign, particularly after today. So here I am. I should have pulled up the survey here. I'm sitting, I get a text, and this text is like, we're conducting a political survey in Castle Rock. Would you like to take it? I'm like, sure, because I'm just so used to these things, you know, whatever. So I hit it, and it's all about my frickin' race. So the Republicans are going hard with their candidate in this race. So basically what you have in this race is a Libertarian, a Republican, and an independent / progressive. Sounds like the beginning of a good joke. Those three walk into a bar. Well, it's a nonpartisan race. And I respect the fact that it's a nonpartisan race. And when I'm talking with people, I don't lead with the fact that I'm a libertarian. It's a nonpartisan race. Now, when I'm talking to libertarians, and I am going to be walking the walk list, and I'll, of course, be very, like, out front with the fact that I'm a libertarian there, but it's because they're already libertarians. I think it's gross to turn a nonpartisan race into out front partisan, because there's a reason it's a nonpartisan race. Now, I don't ever think anyone should hide what party they belong to. If they're asked, they should answer directly. Somewhere on their website, it should mention, but you don't campaign on the fact of your partisan affiliation in a nonpartisan race. So what does this survey do? What is it? Oh, my Patreon link. It's going along the bottom, but it's patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty. So hopefully that helps. It's also, I believe it's in the show notes in YouTube. On the YouTube channel will also be in the show notes. So what does this survey do? So it lists what was really surreal for me, because remember, this is my first campaign for public office, at least. So it's like, if the council District 5 race was today, who would you vote for? Max, and it's funny because there's two Karens. We both spell our name Caryn. It says Max Brooks, Karen Johnson, or Karen Ann Harlos. I was like, definitely Harlos. But the next thing was, did you know that Max Brooks is the only Republican in the race? I'm like, how gross and how desperate are you, Republican Party, that Max didn't pay for this. The Republican Party did. So they're out there just trying to get votes based upon the fact that he's a Republican. You want to know what? The tax and spend town council we have right now, most of them are Republicans. What good has that done you? Did Max go and speak out against these tax increases last term? No, ma'am. Not today, Satan. And meanwhile, and listen, I like Max, but this is a political campaign. I'm just saying, turning it into a partisan race, are we? And then it's like, did you know Max is going to find funding? That sounds really Republican for this big parks project they got going on. Ah, I didn't know funding parks was part of small government republicanism. Well, I hope Max and I get to debate. I hope so. But if the Republican Party of Douglas County is true to form, they'll forbid him from debating. We've got a really strong Libertarian candidate for deputy sheriff in Douglas County. And the candidate the Republican candidate, and it is a partisan race, wanted to debate the Libertarian, and the Republican Party of Douglas County prohibited him from doing it. That is gross. So we'll see. I'll debate Max. He's got a lot more experience at this sort of thing than I do. He's never been on town council, but he's run a bunch of times, so, you know, he definitely has experience on his time. But I'd love to ask him why he's consenting to make a nonpartisan race so divisively partisan, and what's Republican about wanting to find funding for a parks project, where are you going to find that funding, Max? In my pocket? Is that where you're going to find the funding? This is going to be fun. But all competitiveness aside, I obviously want to win. But if Max wins, it's better than having a tax and spend progressive. So I won't cry. I won't cry if Max wins, but I want to beat him. I was really, really turned off by that hyper-partisanship in a non-partisan race. So I'll find some way to make that to my advantage. But I really need to get out and start knocking doors. Can't do that till I have literature and yard signs, and that's what I'm trying to get seed money for. Again, it's KarenForCastleRock.com if you want to see me kick some Republican ass. All right, let's get on to ballot access news. All right, so headline, and this is Richard Winger's publication. Please support him if you like hearing about ballot access stuff. You can get this newsletter yourself. It's Richard Winger at yahoo.com. I forgot how much it is a year. It's $18 a year, and you get an issue every month. I mean, that's a deal. He's the ballot access guru. But anyway, North Carolina Green Party wins access case. This is big news because apparently it says here, no independent had ever appeared on the ballot for U.S. House in the history of North Carolina government printed ballots. So obviously there's a problem with their ballot access laws. So he goes through the whole record of the convoluted mess that this case was. And guess who is trying to throw him off the ballot? The Democrats. What is it about the duopolies that they are so threatened by all of us? And when I say us, we're obviously not Greens, but we're another third party. So in that sense, yes, we are us. But it says it's refreshing that the Fourth Circuit ruled for the Green Party. The issue was the law that says minor parties, check this out, this will get your blood boiling, got to listen to the whole thing, that says minor parties must certify their nominees by July 1st. The Green Party tried to comply, but the State Board of Elections blocked them because they were unsure if the petition had enough signatures. Now remember, it needed to be certified by July 1st. They're like, well, we don't know if you have enough signatures. They had the petition in hand. The state had the petition turned in since mid-May. But they couldn't figure out, listen, if you don't have the manpower, even if the petition was turned in the last day, you got to have the manpower to count them if you're going to be silencing another voice. So on August 1st, a whole other month later, the board decided that there was enough signatures, but said it was too late to put their nominees on the 2022 ballot. Mighty convenient. The courts ruled in these circumstances that the July 1st deadline for candidate submission is a severe burden and likely unconstitutional. What gross games are being played? And the next title, Democrats hurt themselves by appearing to favor monopoly. And he goes through the history of, does having a Green Party candidate really hurt the Democrats? And he argues convincingly that it doesn't. You will hear a lot of times that having a Libertarian on the ballot hurts the Republicans. Well, first thing, your tears are delicious and your party will die. Boo-hoo, cry me a river. But the fact is, in most cases, it just doesn't support that. You can't simply point to the fact that the percentage a third-party candidate got, be it Green, Libertarian, was greater than the gap between the duopoly candidates, because you are just assuming then, just take libertarians, that every libertarian that voted would have voted for the Republican. When the fact is, usually when you poll libertarians, the majority of them wouldn't have voted at all. And the other ones might slightly have favored the Republican, but not entirely. But he makes the same argument, but for the Green Party. It works out the same way with the Green Party. For instance, it says the 2016 exit polls show that voters who voted for Jill Stein, when asked whom they would have voted for if they couldn't vote for Stein, were not a source of many potential votes for Hillary Clinton. The exit polls were as follows. 25% of the Stein voters would have voted for Clinton, 11% would have voted for Donald Trump, and 61% would not have voted at all. Just flip Trump and Clinton there, but keep the 61%, and that would have been the Libertarian. The majority of libertarians who vote in the presidential election, if they couldn't vote for a libertarian, wouldn't have voted at all. You're not entitled to our votes, spoiled little Republicans, or in the case of the Green Party, Democrats. You're not owed anything. But if I can't vote for a libertarian candidate, I'm not voting. So the closest margin in 2016 in any state carried by Trump was Michigan. Trump won by 10,704 votes. Jill Stein received 51,463 votes in Michigan. So people were screaming up and down, Jill Stein, cost Hillary Michigan. But contraire, mon frere. Applying the exit poll results to Michigan would mean that Clinton would have received a net gain of 14% from Stein voters, equaling 7,205 votes, so Trump would have still carried Michigan. And that's not adding to Trump the 11%. Well, yeah, he did. He did that already, a 14% net gain. So yeah, he did. So she would have gained 7,000 votes, which still wasn't enough. It says, furthermore, if the Democratic Party had tried to remove Stein from the ballot in Michigan or any other state, they would have engendered bad publicity and probably lost some votes for Clinton. So, a research psychologist, Dan Irely, in his book, Predictably Irrational, said that if an individual is faced with three choices, and two of the choices are similar to each other, but one is clearly superior to the other in some way, the individual is less likely to choose the third dissimilar choice. So, the Predictably Irrational book tends to say that there could be a factor where the presence of a third party actually pushes people to a duopoly candidate. So, for instance, applying this to elections, if the Green Party and the Democratic Party both have pro-environment messages and the Republican Party doesn't, that would result in an assist to the Democrats. The Democratic ticket would be seen as superior to the Green ticket because of the greater likelihood that the Democrat could win the election. All right. Pennsylvania bill to let independents vote in primaries. God, that gets me mad. I can't stand primaries to begin with. People should not be forced to pay for the internal selection process of a private political party, but neither should a private political party be forced to have people who aren't part of the club pick their nominees. You want to vote in a partisan primary? Then get some skin in the game and join that party. So on August 16th, the Pennsylvania House State Government Committee finally held a hearing on HB 1369, which would let independent voters choose a primary ballot. They want a primary ballot, let them join the party. Ugh. The bill, so it says they haven't acted on the bill so far. Okay. Ninth Circuit strikes down Montana out-of-state petitioner ban, which is always a good thing. Because, how in the heck is that serving any state interest? So the only states that still have an out-of-state circulator ban of any type that has not been enjoined or struck down are Arkansas, New Jersey, North Dakota, and South Dakota. Mississippi has a meaningless ban on out-of-state circulators for initiative, but the state no longer has an initiative process, so it's meaningless. Check this out. This is interesting. I'm not sure how I read this with you guys. Sometimes I've skinned it and circled some things, but I can tell you I haven't done that in this case. So I'm learning this news along with you. Seventh Circuit says parties may exclude disloyal candidates. On August 7th, the Seventh Circuit decided Hero versus Lake County Election Board. It upheld the right of the Indiana Republican Party to exclude a candidate from its primary ballot for political reasons. The candidate had endorsed an independent candidate for local office, and the Republican Party then banned him from running in its primary for 6 years. Listen, I think that's a pretty shitty move, but they're a private association. They can do what they want. And it says, interestingly, the Ninth Circuit came to an opposite conclusion in 2008 in Alaska. Okay. There are Florida and Louisiana ballot access wins. Let's go through these quickly. So there was a law that in Florida that says no one can run in a primary who has not been a member of that party for a full year before filing. But the appeals court said the duration of residency law can't be enforced if the candidate just says they've met the requirement. And here's another Florida one. Interestingly, I don't know what the notary law is in Florida, but it says on August 9th, the state appeals court issued opinion concerning Jerry Torres, a Republican candidate for U.S. House in the 14th District. His declaration of candidacy had been notarized by a Mississippi notary while he himself was in Africa. The lower court had removed him from the ballot, saying the notarization was defective, but the appeals court said no one has standing to challenge a candidate for these reasons and put him back on the ballot. Okay. It says these decisions should be helpful for the People's Party, who I need to go back and we need to start covering them again. I just got so caught up in the Libertarian Party stuff, all of our internal strum and thurum or whatever. Or is that the name of the things that the high priest used in Leviticus? Whatever. I've been all caught up in LP stuff, so we need to get back to visiting our commie friends at the People's Party. I've been trolling, what the hell is her name? She's a socialist on Tina. Is it Tina? Crap, I can't remember her name. Socialist candidate on Twitter. Crap, and she's really big in the People's Party too. Crap, I wish I could remember her name. Okay, Louisiana. It said that Adrian Perkins should be restored to the candidate. He listed his wrong address on his declaration of candidacy. The majority said it doesn't follow that just because that type of error is made, that the penalty would be exclusion from the ballot. High Court removes Public Service Commission from Georgia ballot. Okay, let's see what this is. Something, this one I don't, it's a Voting Rights Act thing as to whether they'll have at-large or districts. I don't think this is anything that's a particular, oh yeah, here we go. A result of this case is that the Libertarian Party is no longer qualified for Public Service Commission. Interesting. And Winger says this law is irrational. It says that the party is on for statewide office, but not district office. If the Libertarian Party runs for this office in a district, it will need 70,000 signatures for each nominee. Ah, this is our case. Now I get... Strike everything I said. I got really confused here with this reference to the Voting Rights Act. I'm gonna start at the beginning of this because this is a case we just filed in. The case is Cohen versus Raffensperger. If you recognize Cowan, excuse me, if you recognize the name Cowan, Martin Cowan is the Region 2 alternative representative. So let's go back to the beginning. This thing threw me for a loop for a minute here, and I didn't think it pertained to us, but boy does it pertain to us. Okay, what page does this go to though? Page 4. Okay, here we go. On August 19th, the U.S. Supreme Court issued a somewhat surprising order that is favorable to the Federal Voting Rights Act. The issue was whether Georgia should remove Public Service Commissioner from the November 22nd ballot. November 2022 ballot, I mean. Public Service Commissioners are statewide partisan officers. So, all right, it was originally a statewide officer. But the U.S. District Court had ruled that the Voting Rights Act requires that the state use districts instead of at-large. The evidence shows that district elections are more likely to enable black voters to be represented. The U.S. District Court realized there isn't enough time this year to draw districts, so instead said the 2 seats up this year should not be on the ballot. The office has a 6-year term. But on October 12th, the 11th Circuit had stayed this order and put the 2 offices back on the ballot. The 11th Circuit cited the Purcell principle, which says that election law changes should not be made by courts during an election year. This is a poorly defined doctrine, and the lower courts differ widely on what type of election law cases are covered by this principle. The U.S. Supreme Court order says the 11th Circuit should not have used the Purcell principle because the state itself had not claimed it was too difficult to remove the offices from the ballot at this relatively late date. The case is Rose versus Raffensperger. And then it continues. As a result of this case, the Libertarian Party is no longer qualified for Public Service Commission. The Georgia ballot access law is irrational. It says that the party is on for statewide office but not district office. So since they said even though this is a statewide office, it's not at large, it has to be elected by districts. The LP is only qualified for statewide offices, and therefore they're no longer qualified without getting signatures for this particular race. So if you're now caught up to where we're at, if the Libertarian Party runs for this office in a district, it will need 70,000 signatures for each nominee. That is barking moonbat insane. This odd fact may make it easier to persuade the U.S. Supreme Court to hear the Georgia Libertarian Party's ballot access case. The job is the same, whether the elections are at large or not. Great, it's the same position. That case, Cowan versus Raffensperger, is on the court's September 28th conference. Okay. That is garbage, isn't it, I didn't get that. I'm not pronouncing your name right, so let's just have a little bunchy. Okay, let's see here. I'm just skimming. It says if there's anything else interest in here. Again, I might miss some. I'm just trying to cover the highlights here and not keep us here forever, but just to whet your appetite for this. Oh, check this out. Anyone, I might get this. Anyone may obtain a free copy of, and here's the name of a book, Partisan Profits, A History of the Prohibition Party, published in 1972, written by Roger Storms. And then also you can get a copy of A Faithful Remnant, Prohibition Party. To get either of these, or both books, it gives an address, but you can also contact prohibitionists at hotmail.com. I'm going to get these books. Maybe we'll do a show talking about the Prohibition Party. You know what their animal is, right? You know, like we have the porcupine, and then there's the ass and the elephant. Theirs is the camel. All right, Pennsylvania revises petition requirements. On July 30th, the Pennsylvania State Elections Office realized it had posted incorrect numbers of signatures needed for independent candidates and the nominees of unqualified parties for district office. Oopsie. Ironically, the petitions were due on August 1st. The legislature would be wise to pass a bill setting a fixed number of signatures, because right now it's percentages of the winner's vote in the last election. And apparently math is hard for Pennsylvania. Bipartisan election law bill in Congress. Let's see what this is. 18 senators from both major parties have introduced the Electoral Count Reform Act. Why do I think it probably has nothing to do with the title? Color me skeptical. If it passes, it will be the first election reform bill that Congress has passed in years. It clarifies how Congress counts the electoral vote. Is there any details on what that means, though? Like, what's confusing about how they count? And there's always interesting charts in his newsletter. The chart this time is minor party members who ran in Washington top 2 primaries with at least 2 major party opponents. And it tells you their vote percent. So there's all kinds of really interesting research. Richard Winger is such a treasure. Okay. We're going to go to the back here. Did you ever hear of the No Labels Party? Their label is No Labels, which is a label, which is just like saying if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice, or wherever you go, there you are. But here we are. The No Labels Party is petitioning for qualified status in at least 8 states. It's receiving no publicity. Maybe they should be called the No Publicity Party. Bada bing. By contrast, the Forward Party, which should be called the Say Nothing Party, founded by Andrew Yang, is not petitioning for party status anywhere, yet it received considerable publicity. Libertarian qualifies for Alaska general election ballot for U.S. House. And they did so because the Republican candidate withdrew. And this is a top 4 primary. The Libertarian was number 5. So because one of the top 4 withdrew, the Libertarian moves up. Check this out. California and Kentucky are only states with a Republican-Democratic monopoly for all statewide 2022 elections. Boo hiss. Those 2 states ought to be ashamed of themselves. So it says they're the likely to be the only states in which no minor party or independent candidate will be on the ballot for any statewide office. Okay, let's see here. Oh, one of the founders of the National Green Party has passed away. And Michael Badnarik, his passing is mentioned in here. And let's see here. Okay, South Carolina outlawed fusion candidates this year, but the law doesn't go into effect until 2023, so there will be a fusion candidate. All right, well, that's the highlights, but go get your free books. Prohibitionists at hotmail.com. I'm very interested in the history of the Prohibition Party, so I'm going to get that. And maybe we'll do a show on it, or maybe that will be a patron-only thing. Speaking of patron-only, earlier today, I put up the next discussion of a chapter in The Problem of Political Authority. I just love, love, love that book. All right, look, I did it in 34 minutes. I'm getting more succinct. What's happened? So I'm going to get going. I've got a lot of work to do. And I'm not sure if there's going to be a show tomorrow. I think I have a Douglas County Libertarian Party meeting tomorrow. I'm not sure, though. I'll try to do a show. Maybe we can start back on the People's Party, or maybe I'll do another... Excuse me. I didn't even gulp down soda. Maybe I'll do I'm gulping too much air as I talk because I get so animated. Maybe I'll do another historical show. We shall see. Friday will be probably an LNC update. Things are hot. And so please be sure to check out that. That is Twitch only for the live stream. The video gets posted to YouTube afterwards, but if you want to interact with me and get all the libertarian tea, you're going to want to be on Twitch for that evening. So one last reminder before we go. I'm going to give you my grifting one last time. Patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty, or for my campaign for District 5 Town Council of the town of Castle Rock, Colorado. Karen, C-A-R-Y-N, the number 4, castlerock.com. And lastly, on Twitch. A lot of people don't know, if you have Amazon Prime, you get a free subscription to support a Twitch streamer of your choice, and it costs you nothing. So take advantage of that, and if you would consider supporting my channel, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Twitch, Autistic Ahsoka, did I pronounce that right? TWI, like Twitch, twitch.tv. All right, y'all. And Bunchy says goodbye. And so do I. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. I hope you have an awesome night. Bye-bye.
Given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business.